Afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Savva here from Savva Talks Football, joined by the wonderful Brian Daigle from Tottenham on tour, all the way out there in Canada. How are you, my man? You good?
I'm loving these lovely introductions, saying the lovely Brian Daigle. It's I align myself with the right people. Yeah, mate. Listen, I'm good. I'm happy to be doing this stream with you again. And next week when we do it, you won't be saying live from Canada. That's for damn sure. You'll be saying live from London.
Mate, well, there you go. You're back. You'll be back. And we'll be able to do a lot more content together. Welcome to anyone who is watching. So episode 2. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Liverpool game. But after that, I want us to go into what Spurs need to do now, this kind of pivotal moment, and will Enic and Levy finally back a manager when it's needed? So we'll go into that afterwards. And what I want to talk about, Brian, is I want to look at those pivotal moments from across Spurs' history under Enic, where we could have kicked on, didn't, and then all the good work kind of came unravelled. So we'll go on to that in a minute. First of all, talk to me, Brian. We have got Liverpool at home on Sunday afternoon. Now, most people would say this is a great time to play Liverpool. They are not in any sort of form. They win a couple and they lose a couple. They're losing to teams they probably shouldn't, in terms of Nottingham Forest, in terms of Leeds. They're beating teams they probably shouldn't, like Man City. What should we do? Are we that good that we can just put them away easily? And are we going to see a kind of Dr. Tottenham performance where we suddenly turn Liverpool back into last year's Liverpool? What do you reckon?
So first of all, this game is Liverpool, who haven't got a midfield, versus Tottenham, whose injuries are stacking up once again. So it's which one outweighs. But the great news is Kulusevski looks like he's going to be back in some kind of way. And I must admit, if Kulusevski comes on for 5 minutes, he would have done more than Mora's done in 180. So let's face it,
more than he's done in 4 years.
Exactly. So it's a huge thing. I think I've got a funny feeling the Tottenham are going to turn up at the last 2-2 with Liverpool, and the only thing that kept Liverpool was their midfielder. I was on another stream earlier with a Liverpool fan, and he was saying we're like a big donut at the moment. The front and the defence are fine, but the midfield is that big hole in a donut. Fabinho, he said, who is 29, is playing like he's 37. And it's because I think I've been saying Jurgen Klopp, I feel, is doing, or has been forced to do what Poch was doing, using the same players over and over and over and over and over again. And for the brand of football they play, you can't do that. You're going to knacker them. And I think this year, especially getting to Champions League finals, FA Cup finals, Carabao Cup finals, it's all caught up with them this season. So I'm thinking I don't agree with this. It's the best time to play them, because every time we say that, we said that against Chelsea, we said that against the Filth. And look what happened there. So I don't say that. That to me is like when we were saying to Arsenal fans, mind the gap, which I never said. And I hated that thing.
Absolutely. I mean, look, when we look at it at the moment, I keep saying, and I can't say this for too long, because if we stay up there, we stay up there. But I truly believe we're in a false position in terms of how we're playing. I don't believe it's sustainable. But at the same time, Liverpool are not playing well. In sporadic games, I've seen them. They're moving the ball around nicely. They look dangerous going forward. But in the whole, they look like they are a team certainly in transition. Certainly not what we've seen in the last couple of years. How bad would it be if we didn't win this game? If we lose to Liverpool, what does that tell us about Tottenham rather than what it would tell us about Liverpool?
So it will tell us a lot. Wiki, mate, if you're coming for the Liverpool, please tell me you mean the Liverpool game, because that'll be my last game before London. Where you'll find me, or first of all, you'll hear me. I'm the loudest one there for a change. But when you come in at the very, very back end of this members section, you'll see an oval table. You can come and sit at my table, mate. I've got like 15, 16 tables booked. So come and introduce yourself, and it'll be great to see you, buddy. So yeah, where are I? What to say about this Liverpool? So first of all, what I've got to say with Conte and his anniversary, what he's done for Tottenham Hotspur, I'm putting right up there with the miracles of Moses parting the Red Sea and Noah having 2 animals on every single on his ark, because what he's done is incredible. False position is, do you know what? It's hard to say. It's hard to argue both sides of that. But this defeat, if we do lose, it's going to speak volumes. It's going to speak volumes, like it did against Marseille. And I think, do you know what? When people look back at it, people talk about the Man U game where we lost 3-0 being the best thing that happened to us because we got Conte in. I actually think him having his ban and being up with the directors and Levy and everything may have been the biggest blessing in disguise, because he's up there doing all his emotional shit that he does down there and no one can hear. Well, he's doing it up there, and now he's got the Champions League. But getting back to Liverpool, we need to have that statement win, don't we? We haven't had that. We've come up against the big teams or West Ham, and we haven't got it. We just have failed. And once again, it's like, here we go. Tottenham being, and I'm not going to say that word that ends in E, because I hate it, but it will be another one of those, wouldn't it? Because they haven't won an away game all season. Just moseying onto town, and here we go. So the defeat will speak as much volumes as a win will. A draw doesn't really do anything, I don't think.
I think, let me flip it here. Let me look at some positivity. Let's say we win this game. And I'm just going to bring up the league table here, Brian. If Tottenham managed to beat Liverpool, where is it? There it is. Standings, Premier League. If Tottenham beat Liverpool, we would go 13 points clear of them after 14 Premier League games. That's a huge gap for anyone to claw back, isn't it? And I mean, it almost, for me, I think if Arsenal and Tottenham and Man City win this weekend, you're gonna laugh at it. I almost think it guarantees those teams that unless they have a disastrous second half of the season after the World Cup finishes, it almost guarantees those teams top 4 without having to be superb. I mean, that's what we're talking about. However, if Liverpool win, then all of a sudden they're 7 points behind us with a game in hand, and that narrative changes. So it's a big game, isn't it? It really is a big game.
Yeah, this happened the other day. I can't remember when it was. It's when we dropped points and Liverpool picked up, and we would have been 10 points, and then it ended up. This could change in such a big way. But like you said, didn't realise it was that big. 13 points after 14. Did you say 13 points after 14 or 14 after 13?
It will be, if we win, it will be 13 points, the gap from us to Liverpool.
That's an astronomical, and that's just to be in the top 4, let alone Liverpool trying to challenge and get above us with the other two. I think Klopp's come out, and everyone knows Liverpool's title dreams. They're over. They're done. They are long gone. Liverpool have got a hope to get into the top 4. If this happens, the only thing I think will be different is Liverpool will open up the checkbook. Liverpool will go, right, what do you need? What Liverpool will be? What do you need to get top 4? That will be an assurance. Big up, Ronan. But 13 points after 14. That's mammoth. Mm-hmm. That is a mammoth. And do you know what? They are missing Sane more than I thought they would have done. Yes, they haven't got a midfield, but Sane, you've just seen how important he is, haven't you?
I think, I mean, look, I was having this chat with a Liverpool fan the other day at work, and he's very level-headed about it. He said, "Look, we've been right up there." He said, for years now, and he said, "Teams go through this. There will be a year where you dip." And he said, what a lot of the talk is that Klopp is trying to play a different way. He's kind of had that style at Liverpool for 6-7 years. And it almost feels like they're trying something different now. The players they brought in weren't like for Mane. They were, Nunes is a very different player. Diaz is a very different player. So it doesn't look like he's just trying to recreate what he's had. So, I mean, I get it. I get what they're doing. I see they're going. They're trying to, blood in players like Harvey Elliott, who I think is an excellent footballer.
Top talent.
And also Fabio Carvalho. We're seeing more of Tsimikas this season. And like you said, I think the worry for me about Liverpool is what Spurs fans are brilliant at doing is we belittle a lot of teams when we go above them for a period of time. But that period of time is always that, right? In the bigger picture, you and I both know Liverpool will, whether it's this January, whether it's the summer, will go and buy 2 or 3 players of quality. Whereas we don't. Which leads me nicely on to Spurs are in one of those crossroads, Brian. We've been here before. We've been here maybe three times before. If memory serves me right, I want to say 08 or 09. I could be lying, but no, 09, 10, something like that. Spurs turned the beginning of the year in second place under Harry Redknapp. We were going really well. He wanted Cahill and Tevez and ended up getting Louis Saha and Ryan Nelson. Then you had AVB with the check, but with the kind of bail money. Then you had the big one, which was probably Poch having this team flying high, second, getting to finals, and then we didn't kick on. Does it feel like this is another one of those pivotal moments for you, Brian? The fact that coming back from the World Cup, we will be in the top four, barring we lose our next two games. We're going to be in the Champions League last 16. Is this a time now where they've finally got to turn around and go, right, we have got to get the checkbook out. We've got to buy some top players.
So do you know what? I think in a way, not so much. I think he barely makes this, but I am going to add him. I think you can add Martin Jol to that list. Because when we had Martin Jol, when Martin Jol came in, he's the start of all this, and we started exceeding expectations and seeing what he could do. And again, if we'd pushed a little bit, not saying as much, because the other ones we're talking about, apart from APB, were genuine. Poch and Conte had genuine title aspirations. The other two were not so much, but we were getting bigger, and it all started with Jol. I have bought the ticket to this merry-go-round so many times that I refuse to get on it anymore. I'm not buying the ticket. I'm not.
Same as me.
But this time with Antonio Conte, you may have said in the others, I didn't trust the manager, or I didn't back the manager. The manager's CV wasn't win. Well, that's gone now. That's gone now. Jose, you could even ask that. I didn't even mention Jose with the 7 we bought. Were they Jose Mourinho signings? So Conte now, this is, and I get sick of it. This is the window. We're going to do something. This is the window. I've already seen people on Twitter and media reports coming out saying we're going to get that Russian guy that we tried to get from Atlanta last season. Apparently, an agreement has been made
with Malinowski.
Yeah, that's the guy. I don't believe any agreements that this man makes. We all know what happened with Harry Kane famously. I believe it when he's holding the shirt, or Sky say official bid has gone in, blah, 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 blah. And then you know there's some substance behind it. But right now, if you look at it, you have Antonio Conte. You are third in the league. And by somehow, with the style of football, whatever, we're still in touching distance of top. We're still in touch. And then you've got to remember, Kulusevski's been out for ages. Romero, with his convenient injury. Son now, once they're all back, what's up, Eddie? Then if these come back and we can have a good window and then start the Champions League, we could be in the best place that we ever have been. Seriously. And we have to. And I'm all ready for the... but we don't buy in January. It's hard to get players in whilst other teams proceed to get players. I get ready for Inquiry FC and Registering Interest Albion. And then at the end, well, at least we tried. If we don't get them, he has to. He has to this time.
Yeah. It's one of those ones, isn't it? Where, look, I feel in two ways about it.
Oh, Ukrainian, my bad. Jesus Christ, because I got something more worse. My bad, Ukrainian, my bad. Cheers, Dimitri.
I mean, look, when we look at this in terms of the January window, we always hear January windows are tough. They are tough. I think every window's tough if you don't go and slap the money down, right? Yeah. Let's be honest. This window is going to be unlike any other because this is going to be the first window in history, first January window in history, which comes off the back of a World Cup. So it comes off the back of top players that go and have a great World Cup. All of a sudden, they were 50 million. They're now 75 million. Yeah. Players have a bad tournament. All of a sudden, it's, oh, God, well, did we want them? Look, they didn't turn up in big games, blah, blah, blah. It's what I will say, what is difficult, though, is if we want players that are of any ilk, we're going to have to be really smart about this because top players that are playing for Champions League clubs that are still in the Champions League probably won't want to leave in January to not be able to play European football because they'll be cup tied.
Yep.
So I think we're going to have to be smart, and that's where I look at the likes of, James Maddison, for example, who's not in Europe. We're going to have to look at players like that for me. So who do you realistically see coming in that won't be cup tied and we can get? Who's gettable?
Yeah, do you know what? That's the tough question. That's the tough question. But the thing is, you could do as well, Savva, is you can buy these players and say stay at your team for the rest of the season. At least they're done. They're locked in. Sure. For a fact, like if we sign, let's say, a Bastoni or a Skriniar, let's just say, for instance, and the bids have got in, at least that stops any other club trying to get them in, do anything. Obviously, that won't help us immediately. But if we were to sign one of those two and said they were coming in the summer, I'll put my hands up and say, do you know what? Fair goddamn play. Yeah, they're coming. Sure. They are coming, because I know it's very, very hard to get the elite, especially if they are Champions League. But there are players there that are not going to be in European football, and they are going to have a good World Cup, and their budget is obviously their value is going to go up. That's where the problem has been, or where I see the biggest problem. I understand players might not want to come if they're in the Champions League for obvious reasons. There's certain things that are understandable, and you can get that. If a player is Champions League football and they're in the knockout stages, of course they're going to want to stay there for the rest of the season. But they can come in the summer. But it's making sure. Let's just say a player is having a good, and I'll give you a good example. One I keep talking about, Canada's Tajan Buchanan, who Club Brugge, who qualified. And if you look at how they've been playing, he's been at the centre of everything. Again, yes, it's Champions League, but will he say, yeah, I want to carry on playing Champions League, even though we could go out soon and blow a chance to come to Tottenham? If Tottenham are interested.
Yeah.
His value is going to go up if he has a good World Cup. And it's like, do you wait around till the summer again and let his contract die down a bit? Or, big upset, brother, or do you go and pay the money that's asked? And this is where this whole thing with the budget that we've got for this January, I think, is complete nonsense, because it's going to vary on the World Cup. If there are two players Conte wants, they both have a good World Cup, or one has an okay, one has a great World Cup, your budget's blown.
Yeah.
And it all depends. But when it comes to big players, I mean, I know Bastoni has hardly played for Inter, but has he actually got on the pitch for the Champions League? Because if he hasn't,
I'm guessing he probably. I mean, I'll tell you what. Let's find out, shall we? So we're looking at what? Italy, Inter Milan, who are sitting sixth. Let's look at the squad. Who are we looking at? Bastoni. So Bastoni this year has played 9 league games, 4 domestic cup games, and he's played 5 Champions League games.
Well, there you go. So anyone that was thinking, okay, he's not doing well, he ain't coming, or at least in January, but he's gettable to say come in the summer. And I think that's what they've got to look at. If we turned around and let's say brought one player in of substance, but then had deals done for players to come in January, the summer, then you're like, okay, do you know what? I'd rather do that than buy these little bit part players. I
agree. I mean, just quickly, thank you. There's just over 100 of you, sorry, in the chat at the moment. Please hit that like button. So far, we have only got 20 likes, which means 4/5 of you are not enjoying.
Welcome to Countdown.
So hit that like. Please subscribe if you haven't to Tottenham on Tour and also to Savva Talks Football. And as always, if anyone does want to leave any super chats, the money does go to the British Heart Foundation. So please feel free to do that if you would like to. Brian, this is an interesting one. I would be all over this as a signing. This for me is the type of player that transforms our midfield.
Yep.
And I think Foggy Foam's hit the nail on the head. An assured, elegant player, Ruben Neves of Wolves. Not in the Champions League, not played any European football. Wolves are not in a good place at the moment. He's very experienced now at international level and multiple years in the Premier League. For me, that's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's
a no-brainer. Not only that, not only will other clubs be going for him, let's get it straight. If Neves is available, there'll be a queue of people. But this kind of thing pulls directly into Daniel Levy's wheelhouse. And the way I say it, do you remember what I said with Maddison last week, where I said Wolves are going to be in more of a relegation battle than Leicester are by the looks of it, and I would imagine so. Right now, you've got to think clubs like Wolves might be. You can go up to them and say, "Listen, we're going to give you this. We'll give you this money for it, or do you want to run the risk of getting relegated and wiping a hell of a lot of value off his off his list. So someone like Neves right now, if Wolves don't get 2 wins, let's say, two Premier League games. If they don't get 2 wins, they're in a very precarious position. So right now, you can start haggling with the price and say, listen, we'll give you this now, or his value is gonna dip even lower if you get relegated. And Ruben Neves and Danny Kiriakou is a huge fan of his. I'm a fan of his. He transported it drastically.
I think he's elegant. And I think he's that player that sits in the middle of the park. You give him the ball. He operates in that kind of 20-yard space where give him the ball, he'll pull the strings. And I feel for as well as Bentancur and Højbjerg have done, I still feel that we're lacking composure in there, lacking somebody that can put their foot on the ball, a character type, that can dictate a game of football. And another interesting one, I just seen from David Clark, big up to yourself, David, who said big rumours in Leicester that Maddison is going to turn down a 200,000 a week contract at Leicester and that Liverpool will come in for him.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, these are the sort of signings. If I start seeing the Ruben Neveses, the likes of Ruben Neves, the likes of James Maddison, if I start seeing Man United getting these players, Liverpool getting these players, it really will worry me as to why we're not doing that, right? Surely right now we're an attractive proposition. The stadium, the manager, Champions League football, Kane, Son, Romero, could have said, surely, Brian, that's the sort of signing we should be making. Neves, Maddison, these are just no-brainers, right?
Well, you got to look at it as well. I fully expect Newcastle to come back in for them. And you've got to look at these teams. Even if we go in, they have the capability to offer us more, to offer the player more, because of what we do. Big up, Eugene, brother. Because of how we operate. Listen, yes, we are paying more, but these are the players that we've needed to bring in for a while. But for some reason we haven't. For one reason or the other, whatever you want to think. But Maddison's, Neves's, they are the players where I don't want to hear inquiries, FC and whatever. I want to see actions speak louder than words, and we need to start acting.
It needs to be, doesn't it? Because this is the difference. I think what will happen is if a Man U or a Liverpool go for a James, we're just using Maddison and Neves as the example because they were the two that we brought up there. That they'll turn around and they'll go, right, we want Neves. Here's 50 million. Wolves will go, make it 60, and they'll go, done, bang.
Yeah.
Tottenham will go in with an opening bid of about 35 million. They'll say we want 60. We'll go back with 37, and then for weeks we'll hear, we understand now the clubs are just 15 million away in their valuation. And unfortunately, that is where we've lost out before. That is where we have messed up with these players. And if you want these players, it needs to be not under the radar as such, but it doesn't need to be a great big thing where everyone knows we're in talks with them. It needs to be right. We want Neves. How much do you want from him? Bish, bash, bosh, done. Get him through the door, announce it, and then other clubs go, oh, we should have done that. Can you see Enic and Levy doing that? They've never done it before. Can you see them doing it now?
The only time they've done it was Tanguy and Dembele, where we were rumoured and there weren't really any debate on fee. It was like bang, done. But they had to act because they've just done 18 months without signing anyone. So there would have been absolute chaos. But
just quickly. Sorry, Hayden. Yeah, I like Caicedo at Brighton. I just don't know if he's different enough from what we've got. I feel this is only my opinion, and I'll get Brian's in a minute. I feel that if we're going to buy another central midfielder, the next one that comes in needs to be a creator or a conductor, somebody not just graft and I'm not taking away from Caicedo. I just feel we need something different in there. What do you think, Brian?
So if I was going Bryson, I'm going for Trossard. Straight up. I mean, what he has displayed this season, with and without Potter, is incredible. And he's that bit of you don't know what you're going to get kind of edge of your seat thing. And I think he was slotting to a Tottenham team incredibly, and I think he's gettable compared to like when we're saying the Maddisons and the Neveses. He's more gettable, but it's that ilk of player, isn't it? Everyone's centre back is really the big thing, and that creativity.
Yeah.
And like we're saying with the big players, he's done it once with Ndombele. We know how that ended, but he lives off the Van der Vaart deal. He lives off the Lloris still, where he got them in cheaper. There's certain deals, and that's what he lives off of. And he's made one big risk, and it backfired drastically. And he's like, right, that's it. I've been burnt once. I'm not going to do it again. But you have to go for these.
I think that the thing for me is, I look at it like this. Let's assume we're just going to assume, just for the entertainment, that a deal has been done or is agreed for Malinowski, right?
Yeah,
cool. I'm a fan of Malinowski. Good. What it can't be is that is our only January signing, because Malinowski will add depth, competition for places in those 3 forward areas. But for me, like you just said, would that really address what we need? You know, what we can't do is have another window where we ignore the centre back, we ignore the right wing back, we ignore the creativity. So I hate saying this, and people call me negative all my life about Spurs, but I can just see Spurs doing that because it will make fans, it will just appease fans rather than what is actually needed. Is there a danger of that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I heard this week from Conte is where he said, I've spoken to the board and the board know what we need to do, which scares the shit out of me. The other thing that he came out with and said is, I'm very, very happy with the squad size. I just want to swap bit-made players for ready-made players. So he has come out once again and said what he needs and what he wants. And like we know with previous managers, when they say what they want and what they need, they get the way I describe it is, do you know when we're turning to our teenagers and you start going clubbing and you wear an aftershave and you're like, oh, I love that Cool Water or whatever aftershave, and then your mum goes to the market and buys you the cheap version of it, the copy, and Cool Water becomes kind of Cool Rain, and it smells like Cool Water for like 10 minutes, and then it smells like shit. That's what happens. We say we want this, like, oh, I want Chanel blue, and we end up with Chanel lighter shade of blue, maybe indigo. That's what we do. We go and buy the style of player he's looking for, but not the player he's looking for, and we have to stop that. And he's come out and said these 2 statements this week, and we've got all this talk with signing a contract and the cat and mouse game that comes with it. This is what we need to do. We need to go and buy. If he says, I want this player, listen, I understand if you can't get them because of what we said, Champions League, or their wages are completely ridiculous. They want more than Kane.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of Conte's players aren't that.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say as well is when you look at Spurs, we are actually, something just popped into my mind. Something my boss always says to me, which sums up Tottenham in the transfer market. It's almost like the manager would go into the office and go, I need a red car with 4 wheels, right? And they come back and go, here you go, Mr. Manager. We've bought you a red bike with 2 wheels. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is what,
exactly, mate. That's the best analogy I've heard.
This is the spec. That is what we're going to give you. And the thing is, we do have fans that whatever we do, they'll just be happy. Like, I've never seen a narrative change so much. And what I feel like people like me and you, I feel, I'm bound to say this because we're streaming together. I feel that we're consistent with our views.
Yeah.
What made me laugh was how many people all summer said he got backed and they were his players. He definitely wanted all of them. And then the moment the football's crap, it's not really his fault because they're not his players and he didn't get what he wanted. And I feel like that's going to keep happening. That is going to keep happening. If that does happen, I mean, I'm not just talking about January. I don't think one January window is the measure of this because it's been years. But certainly if he is here next year and in this January window and next summer, we don't buy the players that aren't there, they're here.
Yep.
Doesn't that then unite the fan base finally to realise, hang on, this is now Yol, AVB, Poch, Redknapp, Mourinho, and Conte. Does that then, or are we still going to have the kind of Enic excuses that will say, well, he's had money. Doesn't matter what he spent on. He's had money. It's on the manager. What do you reckon?
Well, do you know what would have helped as well if we had Google and we had that? But Google, what's happened to the Google deal? Because it's gone very quiet once again, shockingly, very quiet. But like you said, this is the thing. Every time I think that there's going to be a swing and people will, I don't want to say wake up because that's not the right thing to say to people, but come to the realization that listen, okay, I've tried to do this for as long as I can, and I must admit, before YouTube and everything, I gauged it on Facebook groups, yada yada yada, and you don't know who these people are. Yeah. Then you start doing it on YouTube, and you start seeing more people in the chat, and again, you don't know who they are. But they are but you have seen them before being Levy in or Levy on the fence or Levy or whatever, or not on the end of the spectrum we are. And then you look at it and it is creeping in more and more. It is creeping in more and more. And I just think that this is what's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to take. Is it going to be Conte walking or being sacked? Is it going to be going out the Carabao Cup? I mean, I literally thought, I was saying to you backstage, I thought after the Bournemouth game, or sorry, at half time, I was like, here we go, this has got to be. And then 2-0 down, I was saying I was sending voice notes to people that was I was shouting and screaming so loud that even if you put me on mute, you would have heard me. That's how loud I was screaming and shouting. And then we got the 3-2. Then obviously the first half against Marseille, and then we turn it round to a win. So every time that I think there may be a little swing of somehow Tottenham get out of it. But I think this January again, if it ends up being bit part players, then there may be another swing. Then I think there may be another swing.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think I remember from when I first started speaking to you and Stel and all those people from Tottenham on tour and Tottenham away all those years ago. We've always been Enic and Levy out. And what I have seen is then it was very much we were a minority, very much so. It has swung, as you've said. And what I don't want to do, I don't want the fan base to be divided. It's naturally divided. But at the same time, it is like, it's the famous Einstein quote, isn't it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And all of our transfer windows keep falling into that definition of insanity. Yep. What makes me laugh is it's the fans that kid themselves. It's the fans that look at that window and go, oh, no, that's a really good window. We've bought this, we've bought that. We just can't have another window like we've just had, can we? Can't be more 19-year-olds, more 20-year-olds, more players that need months and months and months to learn a Conte way, whatever that means. It's got to be players that come in the day after they've signed, they're in the squad, and bang, you're starting games of football. Moving the conversation forward, Højbjerg and Bentancur have had a lot of praise this year.
Yeah.
This is a controversial one, right? And I put this to one of my WhatsApp groups earlier, and it was quite a heated debate. Everyone keeps telling me our best two players this year have been Højbjerg and Bentancur. Right? Now, I'm not disagreeing with them necessarily.
Yep.
But they're getting praised and they're brilliant. Look what Conte's done with them. But if those two that are the engine room have been our best players, why do we never control games?
Right, do you know what I mean? That's a really good point, because I am in the bracket of thinking they have been our best two. But do you know what it is as well? Kane's been electric. We know his goals have done it, but that's the standard Kane set to.
Of course, yeah.
So that's the thing. I mean, for me, Højbjerg has been my favourite player since we signed him. Not just for what he does on the pitch, it's just the way he conducts himself, and that if you had to say, right, there's one player that's going to be fit every game, who's your money on? You're putting your money on Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. This guy has one game. Bentancur, who I knew nothing about before we signed him, didn't even know where he came, what country he represented. I thought he did really well last season, but in the last month, this guy has exceeded what I thought he'd even get to, like at this stage of his development. But you're right.
The way, can I just say, by the way, I'm not saying they haven't been good.
No, you're not. I know you're not.
It's just It's a strange one, isn't it? If you turn around and go, oh, the best 2 players this year for any team, forget Bentancur and Højbjerg, have been their 2 centre mids. But yet the number of times we just don't have any control of games, we don't have the ball in midfield, they're running around chasing shadow. It's just one of those weird...
The observation I'll give with it as well is the one thing I have noticed is Bentancur seems to go up levels when Bissouma's on the pitch.
Agreed.
Because then Bissouma's there. And I've come to the conclusion: just put Bissouma on as a sub, even if you have to make a sub after 1 minute. Just put a youth player on, and then just bring him on after the, because every time he comes off the bench, he looks night and day to the player that starts when he has it. When he starts, he looks lost. But when he comes off the bench for whatever time, and even the Marseille game, where it's fairly like halfway through the first time, he changed the game. Mm-hmm. Not him personally, but he allowed Bentancur to. He seems to have an effect on them.
But this is why when people, first and foremost, I do think it's funny that like all those fans have said, "Oh, there's no point playing 3-5-2. Things won't change." Blah blah blah. And then when we play one game with it and lose, it's there you go. See, it doesn't work. But first and foremost, a formation you can't just play. Oh, has my camera gone?
Yeah, it looks like it has.
Don't worry, I'll sort that out in just a second. It's probably better for people to not be able to see me moving my lips, actually. But I've completely lost my train of thought now. The funny thing about it, right, is if you play that formation properly, it does allow Højbjerg and Bentancur to go and press. And that's when I think they've had their most success, is when they're going higher up the pitch.
Yep.
I don't think their best work has been done in a defensive capacity. I think it's when they go up. And that is the frustration of Conte's style for me, that when people say we haven't got the players to go and play better, I don't believe that, Brian. I believe that let them off the leash, let them go. But the first game we saw it was against Brighton, where Højbjerg came into that midfield three, and straight away, Bentancur and Højbjerg didn't let Brighton play out the back for that first 30 minutes. They pressed, they closed. So is there merit in that? Am I being overzealous in saying that we should be playing better football?
We should do. And again, this guy, you can't really say, it's because of the World Cup and he's trying, because every team in the Premier League has got some, or a majority, they're going to the World Cup. So you can't just say, it's Tottenham and they're trying to preserve energy for the World Cup, because other teams, look at Arsenal, look at the filth down the road. They've got a lot of players going to the World Cup. Are they preserving energy? No, they're going out and battering teams.
I don't buy it. I don't buy that line.
So it's very hard. You know what it is? It's the whole balance. When we went on that run at the end of last season, we got down to like 14 players. And the team bond and the morale and the confidence and everything, they all knew each other. They knew how to play. And right now, he just can't find that right three. Do you know what? I think he's telling that three to do different things in different games.
Yeah.
And if Bissouma just comes on and does what he's been doing, I think the key to it is he hasn't let Bissouma off the leash. It's like we heard with Bissouma, it's been, well, before he came in, it was he hasn't got the styles of play, he hasn't got that, he hasn't got the fitness, he hasn't got this, he hasn't got that. But that's because you're trying to change him, or you're asking him to do something he doesn't do. So every time he's come on and been allowed to express himself, we've seen a difference in him, and we've seen a difference in Højbjerg and Bentancur. And I think that's the issue. I think Bissouma, who don't get me wrong, I put a tweet out after the Bournemouth game saying, does anyone think we've signed Bissouma's brother? And mate, it's night and day. And I believe, and I have full faith, that the Bissouma we saw at Brighton, we will see at Tottenham.
For sure. Look, you don't just lose it overnight. I mean, he was. I feel what's different is whenever I watched him playing for Brighton, he was, whether it was in a midfield 2 or a midfield 3, because Potter would always change it up, he wasn't the one sitting back. He was always driving forward. He was everywhere. It seems that when he plays in a 3 for Spurs, the other two seem to be the ones going. Yeah, and that surprised me, if I'm really, really honest. But having said that, then let's look at this. I have said, and I think many fans have said, I think you feel the same as well, that we do need a playmaker or a conductor in that midfield. So the interesting thing is, if we were to bring that in, if we were going to bring in a Ruben Neves or a James Maddison, what happens to that midfield? What's the dynamic? Who drops out? Do we play two? Do we play three? Do you know what I mean? If you play three, who drops out from Kane, Son, Kulusevski? So what do you reckon? Who would drop out?
I don't even think it's a case of who drops out. I think most of the points ever is we've got the variables to play different games against different teams.
True.
That's the main thing. Right now, these three are practically, or Skippy, those three are going to do, or four will do a similar thing. They're going to be asked to do a similar thing. But you get one of those two you just mentioned. You're not talking about dropping Brian Hill into an attacking midfielder or Kulusevski. You've got real, genuine options where teams come into play us or we're going to them, don't know which midfield formation we're playing, how we're going to tackle it, what we're going to do. And the element of surprise and variation is on our side. Not, it's Tottenham, just do like Newcastle did. Press Hugo, we know we're going to do that. Or Tottenham are doing this, they're doing that. The variation it brings in is outstanding.
Yeah. I mean, just quickly, Steve D, I agree with this, mate. So a midfield should dictate and marshal the pace and direction of play. Our defence gets exposed because teams play with ease through the middle. Now, we'll go on to this as a debate afterwards, Brian, because lots of people tell me, well, our midfielders don't do well because they're covering for a really bad defence. But I lean more towards this. The defence is going to be the defence, whatever it is. But when we've got the ball, you can't blame the defence. When we've got the ball and we don't keep possession of it and play nice football, that's not the back three. That's the midfield. But just quickly, Dunkel's talk. You've not heard me say that Neves is a central attacking midfielder. What I said was Neves is more of your conductor. So he goes into that three. So my question to Brian was, if you bring in a Neves, where does he fit? Who plays alongside him? Does he slot into a three? Is he one of the two? That would be that was what I was trying to say to Brian. Please keep hitting that like button, people. We have got 150 in the chat and 50 likes. So let's see if we can get that to 100. Please like and subscribe to Tottenham on Tour for the wonderful Brian Dagul and his boys. And please subscribe to Savva Talks Football as we're hunting down 2,500. And the aim is to be at 5,000 by the end of the season. So that's what we're going for. Brian, talk to me about this then. You've got people like Steve saying the midfield should dictate the play.
Yep.
Then you've got Dunkel's daughter who said you can't control a game with just two good midfielders, especially if they have to cover a shit defence. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that at all. If your midfield have got the ball, it's what Pep Guardiola says. If you've got the ball, the other team can't hurt you. So where do you sit in that argument?
So first of all, I have to say, like we were just saying before, look at Liverpool right now. Their whole issue at the moment, and I'm hearing this from so many Liverpool fans, is that their midfield is absolutely shocking. That literally you've got Thiago, who is an absolute. Oh, here we go. My Mark Cucurella one. I think I can narrow the short list of who that may be. I can pretty much narrow the short list of who that may be.
Who do you reckon it is? Who do we reckon it is?
Cody Mack started the whole I'm Cucurella thing, so I don't know what Cody Mack's doing. But then there's a few other people within our community, within our friends, that have joined the bandwagon of me being Cucurella without hair. So I would imagine it's one of them. But yeah, you've seen how important the midfield is. You've seen how important the midfield is with Liverpool's lack of it. And that's what Liverpool fans are saying to me. I'm not saying that is Liverpool's issue, but all the Liverpool fans that I know have said it's not our defence. They're saying Van Dijk's form is really... So the one I was on today said people are questioning Van Dijk's form and he's not the same player. And that was because, and also you look at it, they had Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson bobbing forward because their midfield was so good that they very rarely got to the defence during the peak Liverpool. Yeah. So they didn't have to worry so much. But now their midfield ain't doing so much. It's like walking through them and there's so much heat on their defence. And obviously we've seen the loss of form in Alexander because he's getting rinsed because there's not that midfield security. Right. So whether you look at it for midfield security or midfield dictating going forward, midfield is vital. But I also think what we need with our defence is, I've said it for a few weeks now, is Skriniar, or a defender like him, and Nemanja Vidic that will come in and just be a rock in that defence.
Like a Skriniar.
Exactly. It's literally, that's it. But a midfield, like we've seen some great Spurs midfields. Look at it when we had Modric, Van der Vaart, Scott Parker. No, that team, you weren't getting through them. The Dembélés and Wanyamas, you weren't getting past them. And that allowed the wingers to go to, or the left and right side of midfield to go and do what they did. You got to look at it as well. I'm one of those big believers that you have to have a very, very strong spine. And then you build around it.
Absolutely. Everything else can fall into place. The spine has got to be on it.
Exactly.
It was just an interesting one because I just sat there and I thought the biggest thing for me about Spurs is the style and the fact that we can't ever control a game, that we don't have the ball a lot. But then at the same time, we're all going, "Oh my God, Bentancur and Højbjerg have been great," and it just made me think. It was just an interesting one. Look, Spurs need a lot of positions, right? We all know what we need. Do you see in any way, shape, or form this window that Spurs go out and go, right, there's a Tomori at centre half, there's a Skriniar, there's a Bastoni. Can you see it? Or is it more likely going to be someone else that comes in and we go, well, are they actually better than what we've got? And did Conte really want them?
Do you know what? Another thing I was saying, if we only sign one player, but it is a marquee signing, I'm happy. That comes in January. I'd rather sign one marquee in one position rather than 3 or 4 that are just fillers or maybe things like that. So if we go and get one, do I see it? I'm afraid to say I don't. I'm just afraid to say. I won't guess. Okay. I'm still guessing it's someone that obviously follows us regularly on streams. It might be there's a guy that was called Golden Cock. And I got a Paul Gascoigne question wrong on a Spurs quiz live on YouTube. And everyone knows my love for Paul Gascoigne. And then all of a sudden the Paul Gascoigne one came up and followed me everywhere I went. So it could be him.
Is there anyone that doesn't have a love for Paul Gascoigne as a footballer?
Mate, do you know what? I'll tell you a funny story with Gazza. So he was at my synagogue for my permission, but the best one was when I worked at Harrods. We used to, when was it? 2000. So it was way past this Tottenham time, obviously. Obviously, when the famous people came in, or a hot guy came in, or a hot woman, all the guys and the girl, oh my God, looks up. Anyway, Cheryl Gascoigne walked through to my department and they were going, "Oh, check out that stunner, check out that stunner." I was like, "You do know who that is?" And I was right by, in Harrods, when you walk through the sections, I was right by one of those section bits. And I said, "Do you know what? That's Cheryl Gascoigne. If she's here, there's a very good chance." He walked past me and went, "Oh my God, I love you, Gazza." And I screamed it like louder than that. And I thought I said it in my head, but I said, and he just looked at me. I was like, "Gazza, I love you." And he was like, "Spurs fan?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Come with me." And I was his personal shopper around Harrods for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, mate. That guy,
let's dedicate a few minutes to Paul Gascoigne. Let's do it.
That mate, you can't. That guy, I just think one thing with him. Do you know what it is, Savva? A lot of people won't understand this, or will understand this. I'm at Tottenham. I miss right now that player that when he gets the ball, you're on the edge of the seat and just go, "Do you know what? Sure. You know something's about to happen. You know something." That man, as soon as he got the ball, the anticipation in the crowd, the excitement levels. When people say he was worth the entry fee alone, nothing is truer than that man.
Oh, mate, I look at it now and I think to myself, right, since Gazza played for us, and we're going back, to 1991, right? When did he leave? I think he left in 92, but it would have been 91, right? But because of the knee. Since Gazza left, I'm trying to think of how many central midfielders we've got that would have been anywhere near him. And the only one is Modric for me. I don't think we've had any. I mean, I'm not saying that Paul Gascoigne's grow on trees, but he was just. It was for a central midfielder. He was so powerful. Like, he used his arms a lot, didn't he? brush. He was powerful. His dribbling, his passing, his shooting, his touch, his control. And that's why when fans say to me now, oh my God, this player's a baller, that player's a baller. And I'm like, well, yeah. But when I look at the greats we've had, a lot of these players are nowhere near it. But mate, Brian, I agree with you. I miss a Bale, a Ginola, a Waddle, a Huddle, a Gazza, somebody that when they got the ball, what? Yeah. And I just don't think we've got anyone in our club. I don't think we've had anyone in our club for years that gets me off my seat. If I'm really honest.
You've got don't get me wrong. Harry Kane and Heung-min Son are devastating at what they do. They are devastating
for sure.
But you could say, oh, I didn't know Kane had that passing range in him. Or Gazza will take the ball when you have three people around him, and then the next minute he's out of them and he's running. But I've seen that man do things. You got to remember he was playing. You remember those really bad pitches that was before the undersoil heating, the water technology for the drainage. He played on some pitches that were just Hackney Marsh-like across the country. I always get asked the question every single, a lot of time, normally once a season at least, going, if you could put one Spurs player from the past in this team to change the format, to change the every single time I say Paul Gascoigne. Every single time.
If Gazza played now, right? Here's one for you. Do you think he would be doing very similar to what De Bruyne does in terms of the way he runs games for Man City?
I think it may. I think it'd be better. I honestly, if you put Paul Gascoigne on a pitch, all right, take away his demons, that didn't interfere, and let Paul Gascoigne peak Tottenham Hotspur. Paul Gascoigne do what he did. Mate, we are talking levels and levels and levels. Oh, Jesus. Okay, Paul Pablo, you're doing it again. So, Gascoigne, we were forced to sell him because of Ivan Scholar. Sugar came in and rescued Spurs because we were about to go bankrupt.
It's all right, Paul. If you don't know the club, it's okay.
He does this all the time. Ivan Scholar was in charge of Tottenham for that FA Cup. Sugar bought them after that. We were trying to sell him because we were going bankrupt because of Hummel and Ivan Scholar, and we had to sell the club, and Sugar came and did it. I complained about Sugar when the time came for Sugar, and I've complained about Levy, but to categorically say that we sold Gazza because of Sugar is fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly as well, a big up to everyone. There's now 180 of you in the chat, so welcome to you, and thanks for choosing to spend your Friday afternoon with us. We're going to talk a bit more about some of the legends of this club as well, because I love that conversation.
Oh, man, they're the best.
We've got 62 likes versus 180 people in the chat, so please do smash the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I don't believe that all 180 would have subscribed to me. And Brian, so please go and subscribe to both, and just remember, any super chats, no matter how small, the money will go to the British Heart Foundation. Since Paul Gascoigne, and we'll include Paul Gascoigne in this, Brian, the best 5 centre mids that Spurs have had. So Gazza's you know, all the Gazza's there, right? Who are the best 4 centre mids other than Gazza in the last 30 years?
I think Moussa Dembele goes in the top straight away, right at the top, because that guy was. You have to put Luka Modric. You have to put Luka Modric. I wish he'd been there. I'm not putting him in there because he just had the one season. But if we'd had Victor Wanyama for a few more seasons earlier, he would have been definitely in that conversation. In the last 30 years, Jesus Christ.
I'm going to chuck a name in for number 4 if you're happy with it.
Go on.
He was here for 2 seasons, but I think the most underrated English midfielder of the last 30 years. Michael Carrick.
I was devastated when he left.
A wonderful, wonderful footballer that unfortunately, because people couldn't and wouldn't have the balls to drop one of Lampard or Gerrard or find a formation that meant they didn't both play centre mid at the same time, Carrick, for me, should have had over 100 England caps. for me.
I mean, Carrick, I think easily walked into it.
One more.
So Carrick was a wonderful player. Wonderful player. We saw what he went on to do at United. And yes, he was around much better players, but do you know what? The last few seasons when he was old, he shone. He shone for United. So yeah, that's the fourth for sure.
Just quickly, Peter, when you're saying Dave Mackay, listen, I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure Dave Mackay was not since 1991, which was the question. I obviously haven't seen Mackay live. I'm not of that age, but all the people, all my uncles and that support Spurs and took me to my first games, etc., always talk about just how good Dave Mackay, the Blanche Flowers, those type of players. So I'm not arguing with you, but this question was since we last won an FA Cup. But doesn't that highlight, Brian, the fact that those four roll off the tongue easily for me as top players? Gazza, Modric, Dembele, Carrick. The fact that not another one isn't going, bang, we forgot him.
Who I may put in the fifth, but also just to say to Peter as well, my dad always used to spoke about Mackay and one other, which was Alan Gilzine, who was his idol. Absolutely loved Gilzine. I know it weren't central midfield, but what a player they were. But the player, when we signed this player, this was a moment where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe we've done it. I was living in it. There you go, Phil. That's exactly who I was about to say. I loved him. And then my dad called me, because this is when I lived in Israel, say, Brian, you never guess who Spurs have just got to sign. I was like, oh, and he said, Edgar Davids. That man is mate. Name-wise,
Edgar Davids was one of those. I mean, we did a show the other week. I can't remember who I was doing it with. It streamed so much, and we were talking about great players from like the 90s and early noughties, and the number of players that you could just rattle off, Brian, was scary compared to now. It was scary how many top players there were around world football. But just a quick one. I'm not going to put VDV in there purely because for me, Van der Vaart and Eriksson were more playmakers. I'm talking about proper central midfielders, proper centre mids.
Mate, I've got it.
Go on.
The beast, Sandro.
The beast, Sandro. No,
mate. How can you, mate? Sandro.
I've got it. I've got one, but it's going to be controversial. Now, he was only with us for a year, but then went on to captain Barcelona.
Are you talking Gica Popescu?
Gica Popescu.
I loved him. Oh,
he was just I don't think he ever settled in the country. I don't know the exact reasons behind it, but him and Dumitrescu, what wonderful footballers they were. Popescu was just he reminded me a little bit of like a Philippe Albert, if you remember Albert.
I was speaking about him yesterday. No, a couple of days ago, me and Ben were doing a thing on his show, and we're naming our favourite Premier League player to play for. And Philippe Albert, we were saying minus the Shearers and players that play for Spurs. I love Philippe Albert. What a player.
I've just got in my mind a goal he scored where he dinked, I think it was like 30 yards out.
Michael.
That's it. Yeah. Do you know what just popped into my head? The moment I saw him dinking, Darren Peacock popped into my head for some reason. I don't know why. Just quickly, Noah said, Sav, a question for Brian. Thoughts on Stephen Carr? People said to me, he's crap. Is it true? Who's been saying that?
No, Stephen Carr was not crap at Tottenham, but then said he wanted to go on to bigger and better clubs. And he left to go join Newcastle. At the time, maybe we're doing a little bit better league-wise with Kevin Keegan. Oh, no, I don't think it was even Kevin Keegan he went with. But they certainly weren't as good as what we were about to become. So he left under a bit of a cloud. But there is no way I will ever say Stephen Carr was crap, especially at his time in Tottenham. He lost it after being at Tottenham. He got a big injury. Stephen Carr was a great player. Have you froze, Savva? I think Savva has frozen. So, yeah, Stephen Carr was absolutely a phenomenal player. Let's have a look. What was I think? Yep, it's just me once again. So get some questions into me, and I'll try. Oh, mate, Billy McCush. I don't know if I've said your name right. I am probably one of the biggest Tom Huddleston. Oh, there you go. That's going to be in the equation. Tom Huddleston was such a great player. Such a great player that was blighted by injuries. He was absolutely incredible. Do you know what Carl Patrick Vineyards will go through this? It's me, it's KPV. Genius was great against Arsenal. Great against Arsenal. But I wasn't the biggest fan of him. In fact, I think he was better as a pundit than he was a player. Yes, he scored. I don't think he did enough. He came with so much promise. And I just don't think he lived up to them in a Tottenham shirt. But against Arsenal, he was simply incredible. Oh, God, Junior, I'm going to go through these players. Junior Mafia, my boy Junior Mafia, David Bentley. Do you know what? When we signed him, I thought, there's the player. There's the player we are going to get, and we are going to see the great things that he will do. But that has got to be one of the biggest disappointments ever. Frank Last, we've spoken about Carrick. Carrick was definitely there. Oh my God, Noah. Thoughts on Christian Gross? Listen, Christian Gross for me, I remember that press conference more than I remember any press conference in my entire life, with his tweed jacket going, I have a ticket. I got on the London Underground. I have a ticket. And that was our version of bringing Arsene Hu in. And I think Arsenal did the better scouting for a manager. Christian Gross was probably the worst manager in my lifetime. And that goes above Santini. And Stevie D, this is not Bentley wasn't the new Gazza, but Stephen Cartwright, Darren Anderton. So Darren Anderton was, I remember him very specifically. He was my favourite player at that time, but that's when the name and numbers came on the back of shirts. Obviously, there was always the numbers, but with the names. And there's been two people that I've had constantly, or there's been four people I've had at names. The other two didn't do so well. Darren Anderton was one. Every kit I had. And then Jan Vertonghen, who is my second favourite Spurs player of all time, was, or shall I say, in my lifetime, shall I say, on the back. The other two numbers I've had, unfortunately, once on that pony shirt that had the purple and blue stripe, the pony Hewlett Packard, I unfortunately had Judas's name on it. This was when he had just come through and was doing well. And the other one I had was Eddie Dimitrescu, who I had on the back of a shirt. And the day I had it on the back of the shirt, the next day Jerry Francis sent him out on loan. So yeah. Who else is there? You love Jermaine Genius, KPV, all good. Darren, oh yeah, let's talk about Anderton. Darren Anderton, without his injuries, what a player. What a player he was. His passing was second to none, and he was prior to Beckham. I'm enjoying this going through players' names. Let's have a look. Dave Mackay is just a legend. Just a legend. Who else have we got? Oh, Crocodiles. Yeah, I remember Giovanni Dos Santos saying he was the next Messi. But again, he went on to do so well. You could add Tarabat in that. Soldado, do you know what? People say he was one of the biggest flops in history. But do you know what? The one thing I will say about Soldado is, was he a flop? I don't know if you can call him that. And the sole reason I say that is because we played him out of position. He played in a front two for Valencia, scored over 25 goals. 1 second, Sam was just telling me his internet died. Well, hopefully you'll be back soon. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, Soldado literally, for me, was played in the wrong position. He was part of a two in Spain, and they said, oh no, come and be a one in England. He loved the club. He tried to give his all, but we were just played him in the wrong position. If we'd got a big man to play alongside him, like the Crouch Defoe thing, that guy would have had a huge impact in our future. But you look at it, thank God not, because then the birth of Harry Kane came. So who have we got next on the list? Darv Hotspur, Dele Alli. I mean, even Besiktas have come out and said like he's not the player and what's going on. That is, I can't believe that fall from grace. I really can't. Who's the next man? Klinsmann and Ginola together. That was in the second season, Tony Young, wasn't it? When Klinsmann came back to save us. But Klinsmann, my God, what a player that was. And a man. I got to meet him a few times. That's when you could go to the training ground at Copdale. And I used to go down there. What a man that man was. I saw Marlon, a view from the south side, William Corsden. Yeah, let's not go there. He was blighted by injuries. Tony Austin, Sergei Rabrov. Okay, I can see what Junior Matthew is doing here with these players. Rebrov again. What a wicked player he was. I believe Savva's backstage. He'll come in when he's ready. It's his channel. He'll come in when he bloody well wants. Rebrov, do you know what? Again, Rebrov was incredible alongside the Shevchenko, and I don't think we got the right players to play him. And I really, do you know what? With the thing with Rebrov, I thought once Huddle came in, that's it. That's the man that will get the best out of him. And we were just unable to do so, weren't we? We just literally could not get the best out of him. Right, who was after Sergei Rabrov? Where am I? Leonardson. Oh my God, I loved Ovid Leonardson. I thought he was such a great player when he was at his other teams, and I was sure he was going to do so well. Ovid Leonardson, do you know what? That's not a bad name. I was a fan of his. Stevie D, Mickey Hazard. Didn't get to see a lot of him first time, but I'll tell you what, when he came back second time and was older, I was at the Liverpool 3-3, and he controlled that game. He controlled that game. Savva, come in, man. Who else is after? Who else was after Mickey Hazard? Junior Mafia with Asimovic. Yeah, just another one that went completely tits up. As did Spurs for life with Helder Postiga. Oh my God, the strikers: Postiga, Janssen, Vinicius. How many have we gone through that have just when we've needed to get the right player in, just haven't done it? Gazza Genius, straitjacket. Yeah, unfortunately, we all know what his issues were, but can you imagine that player? Can you imagine that player like literally today? Jamie, Chris Armstrong. Oh, wait a minute. There goes David Clark. The best player ever to play for Spurs in my lifetime was John White. Yeah, do you know what? The things I've heard about John White, David Clark, and seen, and obviously was tragically taken away at way too young an age and in tragic circumstances with a lightning bolt whilst playing golf. Tremendous player. Jamie, Chris Armstrong. First season with Teddy Sheringham, sensational. Absolutely incredible. And we'll always have a soft spot in my heart because it was the first North London derby game I went with my mates, not with my family. And he scored the winner in a 2-1 win. So I will always have fond memories of him, although he was offside more times in one game than he scored goals in a season. Timo Tainio. Jesus Christ. I liked him. Didn't do the job, and we should have got better. But as a player, you always knew he'd give 110%. So yeah, I was a fan of his. Noah. Brian, you have seen? Have you ever seen Spurs in a relegation scrap? Yes, we were. Mate, we've been there in a few occasions. 97-98, which is the season I believe that Ginola came back, and now it's not. The stream isn't letting Savva in. I hope he can keep trying, Savva, in case we're screwed and I can't end the stream. So Savva will keep trying. Where are we? I'm loving these names. Yeah, relegation struggles we've been in, and they were hard. They were hard to deal with. I can see a few bad names coming through here. How many players do we need to mention in our blessed passing midfield to realise we're nowhere near with the current midfield? Stevie D, you're right. We need to address this situation. We really, really do, with players that are ready to come and doing it. Stuart, actually, this is going to be controversial, but Dyer in the first couple of seasons in central midfield was probably because, mate, do you know what? I did a thing when we said Dyer would do 10 years on We Are Tottenham TV. And I loved him that season in Poch, where he played central, like the defensive midfielder. I think that was his best season, apart from the last season. I really liked him there. I don't think he can do it now. Frank lost. Yeah, we're not going to talk about Endon bye-bye. Stephen Hill, Paolo Trabanese. Yeah, at least said about that, man, the better. Darv Hotspur. I'm loving all these names coming through. There's one coming in that I'm really going to enjoy talking about. But where was I? Les Ferdinand, again a Spurs fan that we should have brought in years before we did. I would have loved it if we got him pre-Newcastle when he was on fire, and the injuries just got him. But he had the potential to be, if we bought him at the right time, to have been a fantastic player for us. Alfie Conn, before my time, but heard lots about him. Billy McHugh, Rolf Fox, on his day, devastated. In that North London derby I was talking about with Chris Armstrong scoring that goal, he destroyed Arsenal. And really could have been something special, but it was just so hot and cold. The next person is the one I really wanted to talk about. Wilson Palacios. Wilson Palacios, for me, was one of the most inspired signings at the time, because we needed that type of player badly. And I believe, if the rumours are correct, and I think I heard this being mentioned with Harry Redknapp, that we were going for him and Craig Bellamy, and so were Wilson Man City, I think it was going for Bellamy at the time. And we had it agreed that we'll go for Palacios and you go for Bellamy, as we needed Palacios more. The Pitbull came in and did his job to the letter, and the kind of player we needed to get Champions League. And obviously the tragedy of what happened with his brother, and that was basically the end of it. But Wilson Palacios was a player and a half. God, these names are coming in. I hope Savva can sort out his internet. Let me see if I can get a Savva update before I carry on. Okay, so let's carry on. Where were we? Palacios. Was Huddle and Sugar managers under Levy? So Huddle, from Eugene, Huddle was Levy's first appointment. He got rid of the devil. It basically looked like he got rid of the devil to hire God, because he got rid of an Arsenal manager and got in Huddle. Ian Walker, some of the football was so bad at that time. Funny story with Ian Walker, there used to be about 15, 16 of us that we got to know in my season ticket area. And we used to draw a raffle to see who would be a Walker watch, because we used to have a bet to see how many times Ian Walker did that in his hair during a match, which became the most entertaining thing during some of those dark days with football. Ian Walker, my God, made some incredible saves, and on his day was a great keeper, but you never knew who you're going to get. Gang Groovy, you want to talk about supercalifragilistic Roman Pavlyuchenko? I love this dude. He was a nutcase. He was an absolute nutcase. Okay, let's have a look. Savva said, right, I don't know if Savva's going to be able to come back and join us. And I don't know how he's going to end the stream. We may have an issue here, people, but I'm going to carry on for a little while if everyone's happy to carry on. Let's have a look at these comments. And where did we get to? Who's we talking about? Ian Walker. There's quite a few. Roman Pavlyuchenko, yes, psychopath. Great player, and you know what? I don't think I've seen a ball hit harder or cleaner than that free kick he scored in a Europa League game. Great player. Austin Postiga, yeah, we've done that. Junior Mafia, keeping to true form. My boy, Andy Booth, yeah, another inspired right back striker we signed. Philo Mido, my God, he was a good player that came in and did a bit for him, didn't he? And then we've got one, world renowned Joe Reagan, very, very good Cockeye TV, Golden Cock, Gregory Berbatov, one of the silkiest players I've ever seen in my lifetime, and not just for Spurs. That man, we talk about Ginola looking very, very casual or whatever. That guy, Dimitar Berbatov, would look as casual as they came, and then the moment he was with the ball, he'd come alive. One of the best I've seen in my lifetime at Spurs, without a doubt. For edge of your seat stuff, everything. Who else we got? Brian Stephen Freud from Eddie Parsons, cult hero. What a man, what a player. But whenever I think about him, I just think about that picture where he's where he was running away from Roy Keane against Manchester United. So we're going to go for a few more because I don't think Savva's going to be able to come back. Yeah, I could do a marathon protest stream. That may come later another time. So I'm going to go to the bottom and start working my. I'm going to go up from the way, from where Stevie D said to when we get to Berbatov, because that's where I'll cut it off because I can't carry on. So let's have a look what other names come in. Steedman Bronk. Do you know what? This will be controversial, but I wasn't a fan of his. I don't know what people saw in him. Some games, yes, he was good, but I don't see what the big fuss was about him. I really, really don't. Noah, Brian made, when George Graham came to Spurs, were you about to hate Spurs or were you stuck in the bench? Do you know what? And I'll be honest, when George Graham came, yeah, he's got his Arsenal allegiances, which you can't ignore. But that man knew how to win trophies. And that's what we were craving. So when he came, I wouldn't say I wasn't dead against it, but I wasn't with the people that were going absolutely crazy because I thought he'd win us trophies, and he did get to win us one. Junior Mafia Raziak. That name will always be synonymous with how bad we side players with strikers. Eric the Viking. When we talk goalkeepers, this guy was superb. Eric Torsvet. I was at the game where he made his howler on his debut. But Eric the Viking, you want to talk cult heroes? Excuse me, that is one. I'm not sleeping well at the moment. Andrew Gregory, big up, brother. Big up. Bobby Mims. Oh, dear. Butterfingers. The least said about that man. Wasn't the best of goalies. Let's be serious. And I can see that David Harper said, Darth Hotspur said that one as well. Ronnie Rosenthal. Elias, it was 3 goals against Southampton, not the 4, and I was there. My greatest away day ever, hands down, period. I also got very, very drunk with Ronnie Rosenthal in Israel. Very drunk with him. He came into our British pub, the Underground, in a lap during a Spurs game and asked if he could sit with us. I was like, no, sit with us. Can we sit with you? And he did. And he just said to the bartender, credit card behind the bar, these boys drinks all night. And being an alcoholic as I was, that was one of the most drunkest nights I have ever had. And what a man he is. He still is. He's a great, great guy. And he was also telling us that he actually alerted Tottenham to Dimitar Berbatov. He let whoever know to look out at this guy. And some of the reason we have Berbatov is down to Ronnie Rosenthal. Cranshaw. I loved him. Nico Cranshaw, Eddie. Loved him. Absolutely loved that man. Followed Harry everywhere he went. But I just thought he was a silky player. I thought he was a really, really good player. Rich 63, Rich 063, Chivers. So obviously it's before my time, but people always say to me, he had a purple patch of 2 years where basically everything he touched turned to goals. And with Chivers, the quality of goals he scored were just outstanding. What a legend that man is. When we say legend, he is definitely definitely up there. David mentioned Alan Nielsen, another Spurs player I love. Deserves more credit than he got, I think. Diamond Lights, Scotty Parker. What a player he was. Again, we've been linked with him with every move he made and ever went to it. And we only got the tail end of it. And now I have caught up with names, and I'm going to find out with Savva what to do here, because I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. Let me see if I can get Savva in. Just let's see where we are. Sorry about this, guys. Why should I do that? You know what? Mention another couple of names. Let's do it. Is it going? Now, sorry about this, guys. Talk about on the spot prompt tuner. Ask us anything. Do you know what? Whilst we're waiting, if you have any questions for me about anything, personal or non-personal, or football, football or not football, feel free. So where are we? Let's have a look. Hossam Ghali, Jesus Christ. For a shot off at the Chelsea away game. Never forgiven him for that. Never will speak about him after that. Diamond Lights, Chrissy Waddle. The first player I caught. So I came in at the end of Huddle. And Waddle, obviously Gazza came in as well. But Chrissy Waddle in that 88-89 season, single-handedly, Gazza was coming through and was doing his bits, but the goals that man was scoring, in the muddy pitch against Southampton, the two outstanding goals against Aston Villa at home, from Norwich, from scoring on the goal line, close to the corner flag, or between the corner flag and the penalty area. The goals that man scored were just incredible. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we had Waddle, Gazza, and Lineker together? We finished third in Lineker's first season, and I honestly reckon if we'd had Waddle, we would have been talking championship. We would have been talking championship. I really, really strongly believe that. Tim Sherwood scored the first in your North London derby, Cole. Yes, I was. When was mine? A few years before, 94, 95, 96 season. Yeah, thanks, Frank. Let's see what other players have we got here that haven't been mentioned. Tony Parks penalty save in that final. Listen, I was 5 years old, but I've seen that penalty save a million times. And one of the best things about it is just seeing the. I believe we were shooting at the Paxton, whether it be the Paxton or the Park Lane, just seeing White Hart Lane erupt like it did. What was incredible. Noah Frederick Canute. What a player. What a player. That volley. Whenever I say the words Freddie Canute, all I think is that goal against Everton. Shame we had injuries, and then obviously we let him go and went to Sevilla and smashed it out of the park. Wish he'd stayed there longer. He was a great player. Vinny Sideways. Good for 3 games. And you never knew when those 3 games were coming, in my opinion. Okay, Junior Matthew has asked me a question here. Thanks, Keith. You got to go. Levy or Mike Ashley? Oh dear. So, do you know what? I'm not. The only way I can answer this, and thank you very much for that question, is the one thing I will say about Mark Ashley is he never lied to Newcastle fans. Apart from saying I'm staying until I won a trophy, that part, yes, it's a lie. But he said there's no money. He said he weren't going to do stuff, and it didn't happen. Whereas with Daniel Levy, he says things, and it doesn't happen. So, listen, when it comes to stadium development and commercial growth, Levy all day. Levy all day. But when it comes to on the pitch, I can't really separate them. I really, really can't. But thank you for that, Junior Matthew. I'll speak to you later. Who else have we got coming here? Leave it. See, Paul. But wait. Before I come to you, Paul Pablo. James Hunter. Remember, Archgooner Terry Neal managed us, saved us from relegation, and returned to manage Arsenal to success. Just before my time, but I have heard about all of that. Tony Austin, Jason Cundy. I almost said a very rude word there. Yeah, can't stand the guy. Only known for his goal against Ipswich, and that was about that. Paul Pablo. Here we go again with yourself and myself. Levy or Scholar? Who ran the club better, bearing in mind, nearly bankrupted us with the West End. Look, we've gone round in circles, you and I, with this. Irving Scholar won trophies. Irving Scholar at the time played a British transfer record for Paul Gascoigne. So he did things. Yes, it didn't end well, but like I've said to you and many other, Paul Pablo, what Levy has built as in stadium-wise and everything, and commercial growth, fantastic. Brilliant. Can't fault him. I care about the pitch. I care about trophies. And on that, he is a cosmic, catastrophic failure. So we will say that. Adebayor. Do you know what? Another one, like I said with Graham, when we signed him, it weren't direct from Arsenal. And at that time, we needed a goal scorer. And when he's on loan and doesn't have a contract and has to play for one, he plays. And he did his job. He did his job. Yes, again, as always, it always ends sour with him. But he even came back with Sherwood and rescued us. So he did get the goals. He did get the goals. Do you know what, Dave? I did not know that Chris Waddle had never won obviously at Tottenham, but Marseille, Sheffield Wednesday got to finals but didn't do it. Tony, it was the Paxton. Thank you, brother. There's the name. Hiss and Bloves Hoggins, who's at Hoggies, Stefan Everson. I loved him. I did enjoy him. We signed him. He was meant to be this Norwegian masterclass, and he had seasons where he was great, but he just didn't live up to his potential. I loved what he did at Spurs. I loved him as a player, but didn't reach his full potential. Thank you for saying I'm doing a good job, Eddie. Especially seeing that this is very impromptu that I'm having to do this. I'm just waiting to see any updates from Savva. Haven't got anything back from him, so hopefully he'll come up. Dimitri, Eric Dyer is Rob Holding level player? Yes or no? I'd have to go a little bit higher, but that's not really saying much. That's not really been saying much. Last season, Dyer was great. This season, the problem have come back in, but we need to upgrade him big time, and have him as the squad player. Listen, Andrew Gregory, King Ledley. What can you say about this guy? The guy that literally didn't know if he was going to play till the day before, couldn't train, and puts in man of the match performances. What an absolute legend! He is incredible. He is unbelievable. And at times, I wish he was still fit to just run off a game now. You look at people like Romero now going to the World Cup saying, whatever you want to believe with this, Ledley King did this week in, week out, and didn't know if he was going to play until Friday, and still was man of the match. Stuart, exactly. Lineker joined us to link up with Waddle and Gazza, and then a few days was sold to Waddle was sold to Marseille. What a travesty that was! It really, really was. Firing squad or electric chair? Bloody hell, that's a big question. I don't know. Hopefully, I never get to answer that question. Noah, Brian, mate, have you been in Broadwater Farm in Tottenham? Yes, I have. Yes, I have indeed. Welsh girl, big up. Smashing for Mr. Daigle, big up. Let's see what other ones we got. Van der Hal was a beast. He was the Chelsea goalkeeper, if I remember correctly. Oh, Van der Hal. Van der Hal, mate. That guy, Van der Hal. Sorry, when you said it spelled that way, I thought you meant the Dutch goalkeeper, David. Van der Hal. My God, you want to talk psychopath like I did with Roman Pavlyuchenko? This guy, he's definitely, David, in that category of beast. Definitely up there. We've spoken about Rebrov. Hi, Brian. Do you watch any other sports like F1 or NBA or hockey? Ben Salah. So Ben, I love NFL. I used to love it back in England, but didn't pay a lot of attention to it. Since I've come back here or live here in Toronto, I've really got into it. The other American sports, I don't mind. Baseball, apart from baseball. Baseball, no. Ice hockey, love it. I just can't understand it. because it goes so bloody fast, but I will get into it. My man, the Irish Hotspur. Brian, what do you make of the caller who rang TalkSport saying we have to thank Enic and Levy for everything we have done? You know my feelings on that. I didn't hear the call or that call. Are you saying the caller from the cheese room or a caller? Either way, it doesn't matter. Either one of them. Yeah. Let's just say I will be going on TalkSport or making a call a couple of times when I'm back in London, and it certainly won't be on what they've just said. Brian, you need your own show. You should think about it. Listen, Frank, Tottenham on tour are coming back next week, and there's going to be loads of new stuff coming. So keep your eyes peeled. We will be back and back in a big way. Tony Austin going to leave us with Darren Ben. Sandra was better, yeah. He came with full potential and really, really didn't live up to it. Paul Pablo, you remember Mitchell Thomas, worst player than Everton. Where did we sell Mitchell Thomas to? West Ham, if my memory serves me correctly. I liked Mitchell Thomas. When he was playing again was Gazza, so I was what, 9? Yeah, I was 9 years old. So obviously I couldn't really rate players compared to other people. I was just obsessed with Tottenham then and didn't really understand football per se, like the world of football. So yeah, David, Mitchell, Thomas, and Everton. I can't really put them in the same bracket because I just can't. Monty Pete saying Inter fans are saying Dumfries is worse than Emerson. I will take Dumfries in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I wanted him in the summer, so I can't agree with that. So Reload, big up Reload. I'm way behind, but January sided won't be cup tied for the Champions League. You can register 3 new players, even ones that play for another club. Oh, I didn't know that. So that just opens the door even more. Reload. So Phil P, yes, it was correct by age. Blah blah blah. Let's see where this goes. Okay, Stuart. Let's see. Brian, do you remember Henry terrorizing your defender? Henry terrorized. Listen, Thierry Henry, Noah. I don't know if you're an Arsenal fan or who you support. Whenever I get asked the question, who's the greatest player to play in the Premier League? And unfortunately for me, it is Thierry Henry. That guy was just electric. I still, even with the players that are there today, it may be controversial. It may be there may be a few comments coming in right now, whether you agree with me or not. But to me, he is the best player to play the best player to have played in the Premier League. Then we've got Kevin Spears, Gary Babbitt. Gary Babbitt, I've had the pleasure of meeting on many occasions. Never could you meet a nicer man. And just what he does for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, he definitely goes in the legendary status. He was, and everything he gave for Tottenham Hotspur, having to deal with diabetes and everything. Gary Babbitt, again, we use the word legend too easy, but I ain't having it with anyone that's saying he ain't a Tottenham legend, because he was. You're a Washington Commanders fan since 1976. Okay, well, so with me in American football, when I was younger, so when we're talking very young, and people who watch American football will know that the timeline I'm talking about, to me, like I just said, with Thierry Henry being the best player football-wise, for me, I don't think I've seen a better player in the NFL than Jerry Rice, who was the wide receiver for San Francisco 49ers. And this is when the 49ers were dominant. To me, he still is. So I was a San Francisco 49er until I grew up and had my hatred of red and can't support anything red. So when I moved to Toronto, I had to find a new team. Now, I'm not going to go into the reasons, but I am against any team from Carolina. There's someone in Carolina now that is basically someone I don't talk to anymore. So I said, whoever knocks Carolina out of the playoffs, the Carolina sport teams, not against Carolina people or people that live there, the Carolina sport teams have become my Arsenal. And I said, whoever knocks them out of the NFL that year is the team that I support. and because of that, I'm a New Orleans Saint fan who have not been very good this season at all. I just thought, okay, it was a caller, not the call. Either way, it didn't matter. But yeah, you know what my feelings on that, David. Who else have we got here? What else have we got in? Yes, it is a case of Dagul talks football today. What other one? Danny Blanchflower, Eddie, again, before my time, but when people speak about this man, you people can't speak highly enough of him. An icon, I would say, an icon, not a legend, an icon of Tottenham. I'd say. I don't know if people would agree with that. Danny Murphy. Danny Murphy is another player that we got way too late. Way too late. If we could have got him out of Liverpool earlier. Was he at Liverpool or did we take him from? Yeah, I'm sure we signed him from Liverpool. And then we sold him to Fulham. Yeah, he would have been great if we'd got him earlier. Ian Barron, I wish you better and a speedy recovery from long COVID. Cyril Knowles, legend. Phil Peter, I can't stand or cheated. Yeah, I mean what he did against Ireland is horrible. So do I have any? No, do I have any family that supports Arsenal? So my uncle married, obviously, who is my auntie. She was or is an Arsenal fan. They're no longer together, but I am as close with her as I am my parents. So yeah, that's the only Arsenal fan in the family. I won't let an Arsenal fan come into my family. That's for damn sure. That would be yeah, you can be anything else. Arsenal fan out the door. So what other things have we got? Let's see. I believe that's it, and I don't know how I'm going to end this stream. I'm going to need to end it because I've got things to do, but I don't know how this is going to happen. And now Savva's laptop has just crashed. I don't know what to do here. Okay, do you know what? It's 1:38 here. I'm going to let people comment till 1:45, and then at 1:45, hopefully Savva will be back and up and running, or something, and then we can go. So we'll see what we can do. Let's see if anything comes. Mike England, again, a player I didn't get to see. James Hunter. We've had a couple of people. We've had a couple of people talking about NFL players. The fridge, obviously. Phil, Savva can't end the stream at the moment. His StreamYard has crashed. His computer has crashed. His internet has gone. So I don't know how Phil can end the stream right now. That's the issue we have. So yeah, we're just waiting for Gordon Jury. Oh, and Andy Turner. God, these names are the blast from the past. Jesus Christ. And you know what? I think we are going to just have to end it there. I'm going to leave the stream. Hopefully, Savva will be able to end it, but otherwise, there's just going to be oh, wait a minute. So let's have a look. Savva's just sent a message. Yeah, so I don't know if he's going to be back. So, guys, I'm just going to have to end it by leaving. Everyone, have a great weekend. That's in the chat. Have a wonderful Saturday, and let's hope we have Sunday where Tottenham turn up and we can play and we get the result. And I will see you all back from London. Peace out, and as always, Levy out.